This is an audio-visual presentation on change of subject. Change of subject. In y equals x minus 4k, y is the subject. And in x equals y plus 4k, x is the subject of the same formula. Now, when you consider y equals x minus 4k, you can see that y stands alone, and therefore y is the subject. When we consider the equation x equals y plus 4k, we can also see that the x stands alone, and therefore x is the subject. The above process of changing the formula around is therefore known as changing the subject of a formula. The above process of changing the formula around is therefore known as changing the subject of a formula. Now, making a variable the subject means making the variable stand alone. So in y equals mx plus c, y is the subject because it stands alone. So from y equals mx plus c, because y stands alone, it means that y is the subject. It means that y is the subject. Now, making c the subject in y equals mx plus c. If you want to make c the subject, that means that we want c to stand alone, and therefore mx on the right hand side becomes minus mx on the left hand side. So we have y minus mx equals c, and this can be written as c equals y minus mx. It's the same thing. That is, the right hand side is becoming the left hand side, and the left hand side is also becoming the right hand side. It changes nothing. It's still the same. Y minus mx equals c is the same as c equals y minus mx. So we can see that in c equals y minus mx, c now stands alone. That means that c has been made the subject. That means that c is the subject. Now in y equals mx plus c, making m the subject. That is, if you want to make m the subject, m is on the right hand side of the equation y equals mx plus c, but the mx is attached to c by means of the addition. So the plus c on the right hand side becomes minus c on the left hand side. So we have y minus c is equal to mx on the right hand side. And y minus c equals mx can also be written as mx equals y minus c. That's the right hand side becomes the left hand side, and the left hand side becomes the right hand side. It is still the same. So mx equals y minus c. Now, because we are making m the subject, we have to divide the left hand side by x so that the m can stand alone. Then we divide the right hand side also by x. Now, dividing the left hand side by x, we have mx divided by x. And when the x cancels the x, we are left with m. And so the m now stands alone. This is equal to, when we divide the y minus c also by x, we have y minus c divided by x. Now, this implies that m is equal to y minus c over x. So we can see that the m now stands alone. That means that m is the subject. M is the subject. That is how we make m the subject from the equation y equals mx plus c. Now, in y minus k is equal to x plus 2, we can see that 2 is dividing the expression x plus 1 on the right hand side. So if you want to make x the subject, you have to cross multiply. So the 2, that is the denominator of the right hand side, multiplies the expression on the left hand side. So we have 2 times y minus k is equal to the numerator, that is x plus 1. So 2 into bracket y minus k will be equal to x plus 1. Plus 1 on the right hand side becomes minus 1 on the left hand side. And we are left with only x on the right hand side. So x now stands alone. That means that x is equal to 2 into bracket y minus k minus 1. And this can be written as x on the left hand side is equal to 2 into bracket y minus k minus 1 on the right hand side. So x is equal to 2 into bracket y minus k minus 1 on the right hand side. Since x stands alone, it means that we've made x the subject. It means that we've made x the subject. Now in y minus k equals x plus 1 divided by 2. If you want to make y the subject, that is, making y the subject means that we want y to stand alone. But on the left hand side, we have y minus k. So for y to stand alone, it means that minus k on the left hand side becomes plus k on the right hand side. And therefore, y now becomes x plus 1 over 2 plus k. Since y now stands alone, it means that y is the subject. It means that y is the subject. Example, make x the subject in the following equations. A, 6x equals 2x minus 3y. B, 5a equals 2 into bracket y minus 5x plus 7x. Now let's look at the solution. Given 6x equals 2x minus 3y, take note that we are solving for x. We have an x term on the left hand side and we have an x term on the right hand side. So we group the x on one side. That means that 2x on the right hand side becomes minus 2x on the left hand side. And on the right hand side we have minus 3y. Now 6x minus 2x is equal to 4x. So we have 4x is equal to minus 3y. Because we are solving for x, we divide the left hand side by 4. That is how come we have 4x divided by 4. And we divide the right hand side also by 4. That is how come we have minus 3y divided by 4. Now 4 will cancel 4 and we are left with x. And so we have x is equal to minus 3 over 4y. Minus 3 over 4y. Now we can see that the x stands alone. That means that we've made x the subject. We've made x the subject from the equation 6x equals 2x minus 3y. Now, considering the example in B, given 5a equals 2 into bracket y minus 5x plus 7x, we are also making x the subject. We can see that we have the x in the bracket and we also have x here. To group all the x on one side, we have to expand the bracket first. Now 5a on the left is equal to 2 times y equals 2y. And 2 times minus 5x equals minus 10x plus 7x. Now 5a equals 2y minus 10x plus 7x will give us minus 3x. So 5a is equal to 2y minus 3x. Now, because we are solving for x, let minus 3x on the right hand side comes to the left hand side. So minus 3x on the right hand side becomes plus 3x on the left hand side. Is equal to 2y minus 5a. That is 5a on the left hand side becomes minus 5a on the right hand side. If 3x equals 2y minus 5a and we are solving for x, then we have to divide both sides by the number attached to the x, and that is 3. So when we divide the left hand side by 3, we also have to divide the right hand side by 3. Now when we divide 3x by 3, we are left with x. And when we divide the right hand side, that is 2y minus 5 by 3, we are left with 2y minus 5a divided by 3. And therefore x is equal to 2y minus 5a divided by 3. So we can see that the x now stands alone. The x now stands alone. And therefore x is the subject. X is the subject. Example, make x the subject in the relation x over x minus m equals x plus n over x minus p. Make x the subject in the relation. So we are making x the subject, and we can see that we have an x term here, we have an x term here, we have an x term here, and now we also have an x term here. Now what we have to do is to cross multiply. That is, we multiply x by x minus p, and we also multiply x minus m by x plus n. Now let's proceed. So given x divided by x minus m equals x plus n divided by x minus p, we cross multiply. So x multiplies x minus p. That's how come we have x into bracket x minus p. This is equal to x minus m also multiplies x plus n. So we have x minus m times x plus n. Now let's expand. 2, that is x times x is equal to x squared. X times minus p equals minus px. And this is equal to x multiplies the second bracket, and minus m also multiplies the second bracket. So we have x multiplying x plus n, and we have minus m multiplying x plus n. Now x squared minus px on the left hand side is equal to x times x is equal to x squared. X times n is equal to nx minus m times x equals mx minus m times plus n equals minus mn. Now let's proceed. So if you have x squared minus px equals x squared plus nx minus mx minus mn, take note that we are making x the subject, so we have to group all the x on the left hand side. So grouping all the x on the left hand, either on the left hand side or on the right hand side, it depends on your choice. Now let's group all the x on the left hand side. Take note that on the left hand side you have x squared, and on the right hand side you also have x squared. That means that x squared on the left hand side becomes minus x squared on the right hand side. So x squared minus x squared will give us 0. Now minus mx on the right hand side becomes mx on the left hand side. Already we have minus px on the left hand side, so it's still the same. Plus nx on the right hand side becomes minus nx on the left hand side, and this is equal to, we have x squared minus x squared. That is, we already have 1x squared on the right hand side, and this x squared on the left hand side becomes minus x squared on the right hand side before our minus mn. Now x squared minus x squared will give us 0, and 0 minus mn is equal to minus mn. Now because we are making x the subject and x is common to all these three terms, we have x here, we have x here, and we have x there. So we factor the x out, and we have m minus p minus n in brackets because x has been factored out. So we have m minus p minus n in bracket is equal to minus mn. Take note that we are solving for x, so we have to divide both sides by anything attached to the variable that we are making the subject. So we divide the left hand side by m minus p minus n, and we divide the right hand side also by m minus p minus n. Now m minus p minus n will cancel m minus p minus n since it's the same expression. And so on the left hand side we have x. This is equal to minus mn divided by m minus p minus n. Therefore we've made x the subject. X is the subject because it stands alone. Relations involving squares and square root. Whenever the variable you want to make the subject is under a root sign, you first square both sides of the relation to get rid of the square root sign. Now when we square the root of m, the square will cancel the square root and we are left with m. Now let's take a look at some examples. If root x is equal to y and we are searching for x, we have to square both sides, and that implies that root x all square is equal to y square. Now 2 will cancel the root, and so we are left with x on the left hand side is equal to y square. Similarly, if you have the root of x over 2 plus y equals b, squaring both sides, you have the square root of x divided by 2 plus y all square is equal to b square. Now the square, that is the 2 as an exponent, will cancel the square root, and we are left with x over 2 plus y on the left hand side is equal to b square. Is equal to b square. Now make x the subject of the formula in the following relations. Make x the subject. A, t equals 2 pi square root of x over g. T equals 2 pi root x over g. So we can see that the x that we are making the subject is under the root. That means we have to square both sides to eliminate the root. Now with the example in b, we have d equals the root of y over x squared minus 3. The x that we are making the subject is also under a root. That means that we have to square both sides in order to do away with the square root sign. Now let's look at the solution to these problems. Solution. Given t equals 2 pi root x over g, because we are making x the subject and it's under the root, to do away with the root we have to square both sides. And so when we square t, we have t squared, and this is equal to 2 pi the root of x over g all square. Now take note that the exponent 2, that is the square, is affecting 2 pi and at the same time the root of x over g. And so we have t square is equal to 4 pi square times x over g. 4 pi square times x over g. Where from 4 pi square? Now when we go back, we have 2 pi the root of x over g all square. Because 2 is affecting the 2 pi, 2 square will give us 4, and we have pi square, so we have 4 pi square. Now the root of x over g all square, the square will cancel the root, so we are left with x over g. So that is how come we had t square is equal to 4 pi square times x over g. Now when we multiply 4 pi square by x over g, we have 4 pi square x divided by g. Take note that we are making x the subject, so we have to cross multiply. Now t square is the same as t square over 1. That means that the denominator here is 1, but because t square over 1 is the same as t square, that's why the 1 cannot be seen. Now we have to cross multiply in order to make x the subject. So we multiply g by t square, and it's equal to 4 pi square x times 1. That's the denominator of the t square. Now in doing that, we have j square is equal to 4 pi square x. j square is equal to 4 pi square x. Because we are making x the subject, we have to divide both sides by 4 pi square. So when we divide the right hand side by 4 pi square, we are left with x. Since 4 pi square will cancel 4 pi square because it's the same expression. On the left hand side, we have gt square divided by 4 pi square. So if gt square divided by 4 pi square is equal to x, it means that we've made x the subject because the x now stands alone. And this can be written as x is equal to gt square divided by 4 pi square. Now b, given d equals the square root of y over x square minus 3e. Because we are making x the subject, we have to square both sides to eliminate the root. So when we square the left hand side, we have d square, and squaring the right hand side, we have the root of y over x square minus 3e all square. Now we have d square is equal to, the square will cancel the root, so we are left with y over x square minus 3e. Because we are making x the subject, minus 3e on the right hand side becomes plus 3e on the left hand side. And so we have d square plus 3e equals y over x square. Now let's cross multiply. So x square multiplies d square plus 3e, and that is how come we have x square times d square plus 3e is equal to the numerator y. Now we are making x the subject. So first we divide through by d square plus 3e, both the left hand side and the right hand side. When we divide the left hand side by d square plus 3e, we have x square. And when we divide the right hand side by d square plus 3e, we have y over d square plus 3e. Now take note that we are making x the subject, not x square. So we have to take the square root of both sides. When we take the square root of x square, we have x. And this is equal to plus or minus the square root of the right hand side. When we take the square root of anything, it is plus or minus the answer. So x is equal to plus or minus the square root of y over d square plus 3e. Now x has been made the subject. X is now the subject because it now stands alone. X is now the subject because it stands alone. So x equals plus or minus the root of y over d square plus 3e. Now let's look at substitution in formula. Example, given that r equals 3, p equals 24, and t equals 18. Find the value of q if q equals p r squared over t. Now we are asked to find q. We are given p to be 24 from the question. We are given r to be 3, and we are given t to be 8. So this is just a matter of substitution. Let's see how best we can find q. Now from the question, we are given r to be 3, P equals 24 and T equals 18. Now from Q equals P R squared over T. It means that wherever we see P, we have to substitute it by 24. Wherever we see R, we have to substitute it by 3. And wherever we see T, we substitute it by 18. So in doing that, P R squared over T will now be P times R squared. That is 24 times 3 squared. Because P equals 24 and R equals 3. Divided by T. And T equals 18. So divided by 18. Now 3 squared is equal to 9. So you have 24 times 9 divided by 18. And the answer is 12. This means that the value of Q is equal to 12. When R equals 3, P equals 24, and T equals 18. This is the end of our presentation on change of subject.